This is the signpost of Katwe Ecotourism Information Center, and this is the main office for the tourists coming to visit the Salt Lake, Flamingos on Lake Edward, on Lake Munyanyange, and of course fishing activity on Katwe Fish Landing Site. So this is where visitors can stop for clearance. They pay in the office, and then we give them guides to take them around to see some of the tourism products that we have in Katwe Kabatoro Town Council. This is a gallery of bones of different wild animals from Queen Elizabeth National Park. We've collected them from the park, and we have the permission from the authorities to collect them. And why are we making this gallery here? We are trying to make a showcase to most of the students, university, secondary, primary children, who usually make some study tours here, or who usually come to visit the Salt Lake or the birds on Lake Munyanyange. So we first pass them through this gallery to give them the education on how to conserve fauna and flora. Yeah, so for example, this is a skull of a hippo, and then we have a skin of a hippo which is preserved here. You may think that it's a bone, but it's not a bone. It's a skin for the hippo. If you soak it in water, it becomes more soft. But now it is very hard because it has been exposed to hot temperatures. So that's why it's standing like this. Yeah, so we have the skin of a crocodile here. As I was mentioning that crocodiles are becoming a challenge on the shores of Lake Edward, so we use the skin to educate the young ones on some precautions, not to go to the lake on the shoreline, not to go there for swimming, so all that kind of education. This is a mural over here which depicts all the activities that we do in the community. We have a part of the Lake Edward, we have the part of the community, and then we have the part of the Salt Lake. So whenever visitors come, before we take them to the Salt Lake, we first give them an introduction of the products we are going, the services we are going to provide to them, or the tourism products that we have in Katwe Kabatoro Town Council before they make clearance. We are in Katwe Kabatoro Town Council, the land of salt. Katwe Kabatoro is the land of salt, and this place becomes famous in Africa because of salt. And salt has been mined within this center for many centuries, dating back around early 1400. And many people have been involved in the mining of salt. And salt mining has boosted many economies of many kingdoms in Africa. For example, one of the oldest kingdom in Africa, which is called Bunyorok-Tara, which owned the lake, dating back around early 1500 up to mid 1700. Shortly around late 1700, Buganda Kingdom, under the reign of King Semakokiro, they took over the control of the salt mining. And then later, Ankole Kingdom, during the reign of Ntare, Chita Banyoro, kicked out Buganda Kingdom. And early 1800, still Tara came back and kicked out Ankole. It was a very big battle between Ankole Kingdom and Bunyoro Tara to see that they regain the control over the resource. Then it was around 1830 when Toro Kingdom under the reign of Omukama Kasagama kicked out Bunyoro Kitara. Up to 1970s when Kasese district administration gained the control over the resource. And today, Lake Katwe is under the central government and the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. The lake attracted a lot of different ethnic tribes from different regions of Africa. So many tribes have been involved in salt mining, including the Banyambo of northern Tanzania, the Bahaya, the Banyarwanda of Rwanda. By then it was called Ndorwa Kingdom. The Jalua from Kenya, the Baganda from Buganda Kingdom, the Banyankole from Ankole Kingdom, and of course there are some other tribes that they were coming from small chiefdoms from the eastern part of Congo. During that time it was called Isale. So many tribes came there and they took control over the resource and they were involved in the salt mining. And the resource by early 1800 up to late 1800, it attracted explorers, many explorers that came from Britain. And one of the first explorer to visit the salt mines, he was called H.M. Stanley, Henry Merton Stanley, that visited Lake Katwe in 1889. It was July when he first stepped on the soil of Lake Katwe, and he was the first white man to get a sample of salt from Lake Katwe that he presented back in Alexandria in Egypt for analyzing the sample in the laboratory. It was one of the biggest laboratories in Egypt during that time, and they analyzed the salt from Katwe and they found Katwe salt. It contained over 84 mineral ingredients. And then Stanley made a report that he represented back in England when he went back. And another explorer who was attracted by the Salt Lake, he was called Emin Pasha. Emin Pasha also visited Lake Katwe after Stanley, and then he made also a boat cruise across Lake Edward up to the historical islands within Lake Edward where there was a chiefdom called the Chiefdom of the Islanders. That was around 1899, around there. That's when Emin Pasha came and visited Chief Kakule, who was the chief of the Islanders, and the Islanders had a chiefdom within the 3 islands within Lake Edward. That is Kakule Island, Izinga Island, and Kabazimu Island. And he made a very good historical document on the chiefdom which was present at that time within the islands. And another explorer was attracted by the Salt Lake and the uniqueness of Lake Katwe. He was called Captain Lugat. And Captain Lugat, he was within this place around 1889, and Captain Lugat is the one that came with Omukama Kasagama when he had taken a refuge in Buganda kingdom, when he was kicked out of the kingdom by Kabalega. So on his way coming back in this region or in this country, he came with Kasagama, because the king of Buganda, he had represent this guy to this Captain Lugat. He told him that this guy had a kingdom, but he was chased from his kingdom. He was kicked out of his kingdom, so I would request you to take him back and take him and on his throne. So this guy, he was brought back, and his first stopover, it was Katwe. It was a place between Lake Katwe and Lake Edward, and Lugat decided to build a fort, on that place where they stopped, and he built a fort called Fort George, and he established there a garrison, sort of like I may call it a barracks, because Captain Lugat came with some Nubians soldiers that were working on the behalf of the British within that company called IBEC, the Imperial British East African Company. So Captain Lugat was a leader, or was in control of that company. I may call it a company. Yeah. We are already in the heart of Katwe town, with a population of more than 20,000 people. Basically, within this town, they depend on 2 major economic activities. One, it is salt mining on Lake Katwe, which employs almost 60% of the population. Then we have fishing on Lake Edward, which employs over 30% of the population. Then other activities take 10%, including trade and tourism. So the population depend on those activities. And this very place is is called Uganda, or town center. And this town center, it's called Uganda. It was first established by the Baganda around 1901. The Baganda that came from the central, or from Kampala, or from Buganda kingdom, and came and settled here. Their interest in this place, they came for fishing, and they are the one who introduced gill netting and using baskets on Lake Edward, using nets on Lake Edward. So the Baganda by 1930, they had already introduced using nets on Lake Edward. Yeah, the lady is not there.
Remember the landing side?
Yeah, let's go to the landing side. They had introduced using nets, or what we call gill netting, on Lake Edward or Lake Weru or Lake Rwesamba. So the historical name of Lake Edward by the native people, it was called Lake Rwesamba or Lake Rweru by the native people. So we are yet to get close to the fish landing site, which is called Katwe Fish Landing Site, and which is one of the biggest fish landing sites on Lake Edward. There are other fish landing sites on Lake Edward, but Katwe Fish Landing Site is one of the biggest. So we have others like Kayanja Fish Landing Site. We have Chisenyi Fish Landing Site. We have Rwenshama Fish Landing Site. And the major species of fish caught on Lake Edward, it is tilapia, which is more commercial. There are others, but the major one is called tilapia. And that's the oldest mosque in Katwe, Kabatoro Town Council, and it was built in 1950. It was built by Asians who had occupied this place around the 1940s. And these Asians or Indians had shops within Kabatoro and within Katwe Top Hill. And this mosque, it was built by one of the Asians who was an Asian merchant called Abubakar, and also another Asian who was called Sudhir, who was the father of Rupereria, the famous prominent businessman in Uganda. So the father of Sudhir Rupereria is one of the merchants that had to put a lot of money in building this mosque. It's a very old mosque in Katwe Kabatoro. So the site that you see, that structure that you see on our right, it was a salt factory. That's what I can say. It was a salt factory, and the salt factory, it was built by Germans, and the Germans had an intention of processing table salt, so they got a contract from Ugandan government to build a salt factory in Uganda, specifically here in Katwe, so that they can process iodized salt which contains iodine. But on the course of constructing the factory and erecting the structure and putting in the pipes, so the pipes that they used could not resist the salt corrosion. They were eaten up by salt, then they turned into ashes. So the Germans returned back to Germany and they did not come back. So maybe I don't know when to come back. But the factory is just there. It's and a white elephant. It's sort of like a shell. Although it looks beautiful outside, but when you enter inside, everything is rotten inside there. Engege, where's it? Engege. Oh, so welcome to Katwe Fish Landing Site. This is one of the biggest landing sites on the shores of Lake Edward and on Ugandan side, because this part of Lake Edward, it is shared by two countries. We share Lake Edward with Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, which takes almost 75% share on Lake Edward, and Uganda takes 25% on this Lake Edward. And then Lake Edward is famous for tilapia. Here, that's why we get the best tilapia, and it has been famous for that for many centuries. But although we have other species of fish caught within Lake Edward, but tilapia is the major one and it's more commercial. And then we are getting through here to see different methods that they employ here in catching fish on Lake Edward. And then let's get close to the net spreaders who are spreading nets, preparing them, putting them back within the lake, within the fishing vessel. And these are stalls which they use after catching fish from the lake, after bringing fish. Then they put fish on these stalls, and the buyers come from Congo, from other neighboring communities. They come to buy fish here, and we have ready market for fish, because fish or tilapia from Lake Edward is on high demand. It's demanded by many, many, many people. And then let's get close to the lake shores. Then we see how these young men are preparing the nets. These are fishing vessels, and we are blessed on this lake. We have over 140 licensed vessels, and these vessels, they are identified by the cell phone number of the owner of the vessel, and they have their numbers where you can identify them, and they are moved by engines. So you fix an engine on the vessel, then the engine moves the boat within the lake. And the fishermen, when they are going for fishing within Lake Edward, they set around 5 o'clock. That's when they set to go inside the lake. Then they spend the whole night inside the lake. Then they return back early morning at 8 o'clock. That's when they are here with fish. So when it gets dark at night, when they're in the lake, then they spread their nets, or they cast their nets within the water and suspend the nets within the lake like a volleyball net. So there are some floaters, and there are, we fix some stones. The floaters keep on the surface of the water, and the stones pull the net, so the net suspends within the lake. And then when fish is on the movement, the fish stocks usually get entangled within the nets. So this method is called gill netting, where we use nets. So here on Lake Edward we have two methods. We have gill netting, then we have lining method, whereby we use hooks in catching fish. But hooks, they have their specific species of fish. For example, we have the lungfish, which is called the Propterus, the Africana, which is called mamba. Yeah, then we have other species of fish like the mudfish, or which is called the catfish. We have the bagras, which is semitundu. We have Foscari kanume. We have elephant snotfish. All those are species of fish caught within Lake Edward. So we are blessed that within Lake Edward we have unique species of fish, and we have the best fish that is demanded in the markets. Yeah, I was talking much about the historical sites within Lake Edward, whereby we have the islands within the lake. We have almost, there are 4 islands within Lake Edward, and these islands are quite unique because they have a unique history, which is dating back around mid 1700, because those islands were occupied by a chiefdom, which was called the chiefdom of the islanders. And that chiefdom had a leader, or who was called a chief, who was called Kakule. So we have Kabazimu Island, we have Izinga Island, we have Katako, and another small island which is near the big islands. So these islands are so historical. Why I say that is that when they are crowning a new king of Toro, when they are crowning a new king of Bunyoro Kitara, they have, I think, let's move. They have to get some materials that they use in performing cultural rituals in crowning a new king. So in that coronation ceremony within the 2 kingdoms, Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom and the Toro Kingdom, they need some materials used from those islands in performing cultural rituals, and those materials are collected by a specific tribe. I mean a specific clan, not a tribe, but a specific clan from Toro Kingdom and a specific clan from Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom, and that is a clan of Abamoli. So the Abamoli, their work is to come and collect those materials to perform the rituals from the islands. And these are the islands which were first visited by 2 explorers from Britain. One of the first explorer, as I said, he was called Henry Merton Stanley, that visited the island, the Kabazimu Island, within 1889 July to meet Chief Kakule. And then the second explorer that visited the island, or the islands, he was called Emin Pasha. He visited the island also around 1889, around there. The third European man that came here, he was called Captain Lugard, who visited this place around 1890. Okay, so this is the method that I was talking about, which is called gill netting. So we use this method in catching fish. And what they are doing already now, they are trying to display nets inside the lake, preparing them, and they put floaters here. As I told you that when they just set to go inside the lake, they have to put some floaters here, then they suspend the nets within the lake, and that's what they use in. So you can see what he's doing. He's putting on a stone, which will work as a load to pull down the net. Then the other side, he's putting on a floater or a float, and they call it a float, which is made of albizia. So these days we are shifting from this. These are organic floats, and these are plastic bottles. So we are discouraging this. We want this. Okay? Because these are more organic and these are plastic, so they pollute the water. Yeah, when sometimes you catch fish, you find when they have swallowed this, sometimes you find some plastic in their offals. Yeah, so that brings in some microplastics within the fish that we eat here. So it's a sensitive environmental concern that we have to address so quickly. So these are some of the special fish which are minor. These are called cichlids. So we use them, we cut them, and we use them to put them on hooks. We use them as bites to attract more big fish. Yeah, so people don't eat them, so we use them, put them on hooks. So this is the landing site, and for sure we are blessed, and we hope that soon this place we shall have soon the government want to establish a fish processing factory whereby we can process fish, and fish products are tinned, then exported to Europe, because we have the best fish. So if we can have a factory here, we buy fish from the fishermen, we pack fish, it is demanded in Europe because we have the best fish.
So what are these ones doing?
This one, they are working on the motor. I mean, these are engines that we use in moving boats. So this is sort of like a garage, but where maybe when these engines have a mechanical problem, then they have to repair them, they have to fix them with some new spare parts, and this is the work of these gentlemen. And that's what they are doing, because every vessel that you see here, it is moved by an engine. And this time around, we are no longer using the local method of moving these vessels inside the lake, like using oars. We are now using engine. So it means we are now using machines. We are moving from using the local technology to the modern one. But I think these petrol engines or diesel engines, they also cause a lot of pollution within the lake, because 1 liter of oil can pollute more than like 100 millions of liters of water. So using these engines is also an environmental concern. I think we can start using electrified engines or solar engines, which they are now using in Kenya. So we need to introduce them here, see that we can move on with technology. We move away of using these fuel or diesel or petrol engines to solar and electrified engines, which could be the best for our water environment. One of the biggest challenges that we have on Lake Edward, we have a problem of crocodiles, which are becoming a threat to the population around. Crocodiles are becoming a threat to the population around here. Every month, at least we register a case of a crocodile attack. And since 1990, we've had a number of cases when like the domesticated animals are coming to drink the water. For example, the cattle, the goats, they are being eaten up or grabbed by crocodiles. When young people are coming to fetch water, coming for fishing, coming for swimming, they are being grabbed by crocodiles. So the last 2 weeks, we had 4 cases of crocodile attack. So now fishermen are getting scared. The population around the community are getting scared because of the crocodiles. Crocodiles are multiplying day and night. They are multiplying on Lake Edward, and well, the park authority, we've tried to inform them on these challenges, but they are still quiet over the challenges. So we need justice in this. We need compensation. If a crocodile eats someone in the community, then Uganda Wildlife Authority should be ready to compensate that loss. Yeah, because they are eating young people. They are eating young people. So that's why you see the cattle keeper is so vigilant. When the cows are accessing the lake to drink water, he's just quite vigilant. See the crocodile shouldn't grab a cow. Yeah. So that's why the population here, they're alert. People are not playing nearby or on the shoreline of the lake. They have to be so curious, quite observant, anytime, and soon they will start even grabbing fishermen from the fishing vessels. And it will be bad for the whole population around here on the shores of the lake. Yeah. These are floaters which they usually put on the nets to identify the nets in the lake. Because these nets, when you start on casting them within the water, they take a long distance, like 2 kilometers or 4 kilometers. So when you to identify where you put your nets, because there are a lot of fishermen that they put their nets within the lake, so you have to know where you cast your nets. the beginning point and the last point. So these are some of the indicators where you put your nets. So these are floaters, and they use a specific tree species called ambach tree, which grows well on the shores of Lake Edward. And after getting permission, we access the shores of Lake Edward. We cut these ambach tree, then we use them as floaters. Yeah, to identify nets. Seems fish is not there. Fish is done. Eh? What do we do?
What time does fish?
Of course, most people, they have already bought fish. They've taken it to Bwera, custom. What do we do? Let's go. We shall find it the other side. Yeah, there's some place where we can find it.
So usually, what are the hours someone should find fish?
Around 8:30 early morning. Yeah, so 8:30, 9 o'clock, when you come here, you find when fish is available, because they stay overnight within the lake and they come early morning with some fish stocks. Yeah.
So like at this time, you say?
At this time, they have already bought fish, and they have taken it to different market destinations in Congo, border, in Kasindi, Bwera, and other parts of the region. Yeah. So right now you cannot find the fish here. It's already bought, because we are getting almost to. It's too late now to get the fish around here. So this is a site, and which is quite unique. It's called Fort George, and this place was it was built by Lugard. And when you're standing at this site, you can easily see two water bodies. Lake Edward on the south and Lake Katwe on the north. So the two lakes, they are not far from each other. They are just close to each other. There's a small ridge of rock where I'm standing right now, which separates the two water bodies. But the water body on the southern side, it contains fresh water. On the southern side, that's Lake Edward, it contains fresh water. And the water body on the northern side is Lake Katwe, which contains salt water. And the relationship which is there is that Lake Edward is on a higher altitude and Lake Katwe is on a low elevation. So during the day and the night, Lake Edward feeds Lake Katwe, which is salty, with fresh water every day. So some streams of water go through rocks and create streams on Lake Katwe. So in other words, Lake Katwe has inlets but no outlets. So most of the inlets on Lake Katwe, they are created by Lake Edward. And that's why we have salt there. So that is the relationship which is there. So this site is quite unique, that we can extend where the fort was constructed, where we have Fort George, which was constructed by Captain Lugard, and it was a garrison, sort of like a barracks, where Captain Lugard had the Nubian soldiers who had helped him in conquering or overpowering Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom. So this was the beginning of creating Toro Kingdom. Captain Lugard and Kasagama. It was the same place where Captain Lugard organized a very big team of Nubian soldiers with some British soldiers to fight against Kabalega in Bunyoro Kitara. And the move from here, the move they used in capturing Kabalega, King Kabalega or Omukama Kabalega in Bunyoro Kitara. So this is a historical site which is called Fort George. And why Lugard had named this Fort Lugard, had named this Fort George, because he was from a town called Georgetown in Britain, and he had also a friend who was called George. So that's why he decided to name this fort George. So this is Fort George. It was very big, but of course the community people demolished the whole building which was here. But it was a very big building, and we've been organizing to come and start excavating this place so that we can get some tools that the Nubian soldiers use, like the arrows, like the spears and bows. We could find them underground, buried there. So that one is organized by the National Museum in Kampala. That's the Department of Monuments. So we are yet to erect this place again to bring back the glory of this place. So that we can build a structure here, we can build a fort here, and we erect it so that we can attract more visitors from different countries to come and see this place, to come and listen to the historical message from this place. So people that have not known that the history of Toro Kingdom, the history of Bunyoro Kitara, the capturing of Kabalega is revolving on this Fort George. And the Nubian soldiers, they would keep around here monitoring the salt production, monitoring the salt business, the fleet of vessels on Lake Edward taking salt to different kingdoms, Ndorwa, other chiefdoms in Congo. So that's why it was constructed on this strategic position. There is that site over there, which is called Bwenda Gulf. There was a house for the king, but it was demolished, and the park authority grabbed that part of the land. But that part of the land belonged to the community, but it was grabbed by the park authorities. And there was a house for the king of Toro. When he would come to visit the Salt Lake, that's where you could get reside for a night. And Katwe as a community is quite unique. It has a very long history dating back around like 11th century. But much of the history of this region has not been documented. it has not been captured in many books is that the old people have been keeping it. So but another way that our history of the region was kept in the native songs of the indigenous tribes here, and also in the drums. So whenever one is presenting a song, is singing a song, we get a message in the song on some events which occurred within this region, Katwe. Also, when one is beating the drum, we usually get the rhythm of the drum, we get the message. So that's one way, even if our ancestors of the region, they didn't know how to read and write, but there's another way how they used to keep the history in songs and also in drums. Yeah. In Uganda, where you find a mosque is very close to a Catholic church. This Catholic church, it was first built here around 1940s, and it's now it has been elevated to a parish where we have reverend fathers, about 3 of them, and some sisters. And then behind the church, there is a mosque for the Muslims. And we are blessed that they are in the same place. And there's no conflict, like you've been hearing in other communities, in other countries, that the Christians have been conflicting with the Muslims. Here, we are one. We are one. So the Muslims share with Catholics, they go in the same school, they eat in the same houses, in the same homes. We marry from, the Christians marry from the Muslim family marry from the Christian family. So we are all one in the same community.
As you speak, there's a wedding happening.
There's a wedding happening within the church. You can hear the voice of the Reverend Father. And of course you can see some cars parked over there. So it means that there is a very great function which is taking place in the church. Well, we are not able to enter inside, but you can still hear the bells, the voices, the sounds of drums from the church.
See this rock?
Yeah, this is a volcanic rock, and these are some of the fragments that they were coming out of the volcanic crater and being dumped over the steep slope of the crater. And by the time they were dumped here, they were so soft, and later they solidified to make these sedimentary rocks which are mechanically formed. In geology, they are called the pyroclasts. They are dumped over the steep slope of the lake to cover the country rock. Yeah, so this is a sign, this is an indicator to indicate that volcanicity took place within this kind of region. So most of the students who are in schools, they are being attracted by the geological formation. So these rocks are called sedimentary rocks, which are mechanically formed, and these kind of material, they were ejected from the volcanic crater or from the depression over the steep slope of the lake. So during that time when they were blown out, they were so soft. So when they were exposed into the atmosphere, they get solidified and they turned into these rocks which appear in a stratified form. They are in strata, stratified. They are layered. layered in steps, and there is an indication that faulting is still taking place, because if you're quite observant, there are some cracks, there are some fault lines within the rocks. So it means that faulting did not stop some million years ago, it's still going on, because when you see in the rocks there are still some fault lines, which indicates that faulting is still taking place. Because we are blessed, all the three types of rocks, we have them around. We have metamorphic, we have the sedimentary, we have the igneous rocks. Yeah, so we are blessed that we have everything here in Katwe. Yeah, so most of the students who are specializing in physical geography, geology, they just come here, yeah, to study the rock texture. I welcome you to the Salt Lake. This is Lake Katwe, which is one of the historical salt lake. And this lake employs over 5,000 people during the dry season. And most visitors come here to see this activity. And we shall go through all the various, we are blessed here, we have various types of salt that we extract from the lake, and these various types of salt are being consumed by people. People consume the salt, and let's go and sample the salt. This is the salt for human consumption. Basically, this salt is more natural and organic, and people consume it, and it contains over 84 mineral ingredients that makes our body very healthy, because one of the unique mineral materials within the salt, we have zinc, we have iron, we have potassium. They are all embedded within the salt, so it makes this salt unique. So we are using it these days, we are using it as a health benefit. So because the food that we eat today, some of the food, we lack these mineral materials, so we can easily get them within the salt if you use it in cooking. So you better, we've been encouraging many people to use this salt because of its uniqueness. In 2015, Katwe salt was, a sample of Katwe salt was taken and analyzed in the laboratory and compared with over 500 samples of salt from all over the world. Katwe salt emerged number 3 to be the best salt in the whole world. After salt from Himalaya, after salt from Ethiopia, this salt becomes so much unique. And like we have salt for human consumption, salt for animal consumption, for livestock, cows, goats, pigs, like that. Then we have salt for industrial. And then we have another salt that we use in performing cultural rituals. So this is the black mud I was talking about, and this is a product that we extract from the salt water when we are preparing for the next peak season. And this mud is quite unique. We shall see much of it. This one is quite dry. It has been turned into dust, and then we take it in farms. It is used by people to feed to cows, pigs, like that. But this very unique. We shall see the mud which is more darkish in color. Then we shall explore that. Just get close this way. Yeah, these are tourists. So this is the salt, and this is the grade 2 salt. Grade 2 salt. Grade 2 salt. Yeah. Abishe mwe twabatangira Lake Katwe. Eji n'enyanza ey'omwonyo emiturano muhurura. Ejeje nyanza tukabanza kugireba, omushijo wabanze kugireba mbamweta murogo, so ntugiyeta Katwe ka murogo. Akatari murogo konka bagiyeta Katwe ka murogo. So aha n'enyanza ngu twine ebika bishatu by'omwonyo bitukwiha. Twine omwonyo gw'ente, twine omwonyo gw'okurya ogw'abanyankore bakweta kashinya nanga kanyenyi. Then twine omwonyo ogwa mahonde, kandi ebichweka 10 hari mahonde nibyo butukozesa omuka. Ebichweka 9 tubukozesa omu factory za sabuni emukozesa omuka. Byona ebyo emyenda emikuzwara kuteekamu erangi ntukozesa omwonyo. Mwe mutagira ngo omwonyo nogwo kurya kyonka. Omwonyo tugukozesa ebintu bingi munonga. Mbwena hahangarireho abantu abakurenga mu 15 abakora tribes zono mu Uganda tuzineho. Abanyankore baruho, abakiga baruho, abachori baruho. Tribes zono mu Uganda kuyo mukaramoja nwataruho. Kandi omwonyo ogu nugo omwonyo guri unique amyonyo yona ngugurumwe ebirungo 84 ebyo takwasa kuyomba byo kurya muka mwanyategereza harimo iron, harimo zinc, harimo kibakweta potassium. Ebyo nane biretera embiri yitu kuba je abo kuba byo kurya bitukurya tukahindura mbwenu kambikirize abarabyemu aboreke bye bikebe nagambe byo mwonyo baba mnonga Mr. Wambi twabashemeru. I usually guide visitors whenever they come here to study much about the salt lake. Most of the students who are interested in the science of the salt water, in the geological formation of the salt, and even the local people who usually come, I tell them much facts about the salt lake. So that's why you've seen me holding a mic, trying to introduce them to the salt lake, but in a local language. Yeah, because these are from our local communities and they don't speak English. Of course, I had to introduce the salt lake using the local language. So I'm so grateful to have the visitors here and take them around. The dark one. Okay. Can I explain? Let's see.
Can I get that? Okay, let's go.
So these are the salt pans, and that's why we get the two various types of salt that we usually we get grade 1 and grade 2, salt for animals and salt for human consumption. So those two various types of salt are got from the salt pans. Then the rock salt is extracted from the main lake. So the salt water is channeled from the lake using canals, or we can use water pumps to draw water from the lake. Then we put the water here. Then after enclosing it in a small area, then we increase the rate of evaporation. Then after increasing the rate of evaporation, then the salt water crystallizes to form salt crystals on the surface. Then after, then we enter inside the salt pan and then scratch the bottom and scoop salt from the water. Then we have to wash the salt to get rid of the black mud. But why do we wash the salt? Because we have to clean it up so that it can turn white, pink, ready to be used at home. Yeah, so but the salt from here is more natural, it's more organic, and we don't need to further process it in a factory, or you don't need to do what, but it's more organic and it's more natural. And then we can go around. So this is the black mud, which is called Trona mud. Trona, T-R-O-N-A. It's quite unique mud. That if you visit some countries like the Dead Sea in Israel, this type of mud, it is used to apply on the body. It's used as cosmetics. So the people in Israel, back in Israel, they have added value on this mud. They pack it and sell it to tourists. So when this mud is well prepared, you can use it to smear it on the body to clean up the body disorders, skin disorders. So this is a very unique product that if we prepare it very well, it can attract more visitors here. They come and do this kind of activity, tourist activity, and they pay in a lot of money. So this mud is called Trona mud, and it is one of the products which is extracted from the salt pans when we are preparing the season of harvesting salt. Today they have not worked, of course, they are still back at home. This is rock salt, and this is another type of salt which is called rock salt. It's one of the unique type of salt. This is rock salt, and it's a very unique type of salt which is extracted from the lake bottom. So as I said that we have 3 grades of salt. This is one of the 3rd grade, which is extracted from the lake bottom. The lake is not deep, it's very shallow. It's about 3 feet deep, so there are some men that access the lake every 2 days a week to extract this salt from the main lake, from the lake bottom, and then after they bring the salt using the rafts or ambush rafts. These rafts are used to transport the rock salt because it is very heavy. So we just put the rocks on top of the rafts, and then we pull them from the lake to the shores of the lake. So salt is already here, it's already extracted, waiting to be loaded on trucks and taken to the markets. Destination, like 60% of the salt we produce here is exported to Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Southern Sudan. So we have a very big market for salt, and we've been enjoying on this. These plots are family owned. Each plot is owned by a family owns it like a garden. So you own it for lifetime, you keep with it, and they are inherited by families. Like me, I have about 7 salt pans. I got them from my father, so I have to pass them over to my children. Yeah, so that's how we own the salt pans. We keep with them, and every peak season, which begins from early January to mid-March, that peak season begins from July to mid-August, that's when we harvest salt from the salt pans. So we depend on hot temperatures, we depend on sunshine. When it rains, then it's down completely. And these days, climate change is affecting us, the whole production, because whenever it rains heavily, all the salt pans get submerged within the lake. So it has been a challenge to miners. But we are trying to see how best can we move with climate change. How can we come up with the best innovation to see that we can suit to this environment? Rainmakers, sometimes they have business, but some local people, they hunt them, because sometimes they feel that they attract rain when we don't need rain. Our prayers in the church, it is sunshine. So when you bring rain here, we shall hate you to death. So rainmakers, we hate them here. Yeah. Yeah, this foam is made by waves. The waves create the foams, but that green stuff that you see is green algae. When it's a rainy season, green algae grows within the salt water and attracts some birds. And you've seen some birds around here. These birds are attracted by some aquatic insects which are present within the salt water, and even those low plants. Salt pans have different colors depending on the mineral material. But what determines the color of the salt water is iron. When the brine or the salt water is rich in iron, then it turns green. The green color is provided by presence of iron 2 within the lake. And when you draw it from the lake, you bring it inside the salt pan, it gains a red color. The red color is provided by presence of iron 3. Then after oxidation, then the color turns pink. So we use the colors of the salt water determining which type of salt you're going to get from your salt pan. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Cleaning. I'm cleaning these rocks salt so that the customer, when he comes,
The customer?
When he comes, he buys it.
He buys this?
He buys this one.
So you're trying to clean it up, to remove the soils, the dirt, the mud?
To leave this mud.
Okay.
Because for this salt, we put in the beans.
This one is used in beans?
Yeah.
And it makes beans soft or
soft? And even in coughing.
When you're coughing? When you have the chest pain?
Just only one day, coughing is over.
Sure?
It cures. It cures coughing. If I've got ringworms, you put in the basin, then that water you put on your skin.
Then it cleans up everything.
Yeah, so
sure.
You become healthy.
Oh, that's great.
You have got it.
That's great that you've got that knowledge.
Yeah.
So that you can tell the people the benefits of this rock salt. It's very important.
If I've got it in, not to smell or to be full, put this rock salt.
You put in the toilet.
In the toilet.
So it removes that smell in the toilet.
And it cannot be full.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Wonderful. I'm so happy to hear this. The money that you used in taking your children to school, do you get that money from the salt sales?
I got that money from the salt because
we are salt winners here.
I've got some.
We are salt winners here.
You have salt pans?
Yeah, at Kasabuni.
Kasabuni. Oh. So the money that you used in paying fees for your children, the money was
from salt.
From salt. Oh, that's great. Oh, nice. Have you got the money to build a house yet at home?
Yeah,
from the salt.
Yeah, I've got some houses.
So the money that you got from salt, you used it to build a house at home.
And even school fees.
And even school fees. Oh, wonderful. That's so great. Yeah, so thank you very much for that information. This site is called Munyanyange Bird Sanctuary. So this is one of the unique bird sanctuary within Queen National Park in Katwe Kawatoro Town Council, and it's a small salt lake which attracts birds like flamingo birds, which come from Lake Nakuru in Kenya and Lake Natron in Tanzania. They just come here in search of food. They are coming here for good weather. They are coming here for honeymoon. So after that, they have to return back on Lake Natron in Tanzania for breeding. And when they are here, they enjoy some low plants that grows within salt water called green algae. That's what the birds feed on. But we don't only receive flamingo birds, but we receive other birds like the pelicans and other birds from Europe, like the whiskered terns, like the gull-billed terns, also some gulls which come from Europe, from Norway, Sweden, Finland. When there's winter in Europe, these birds come here. So this is Mnyanyange, and it attracts a lot of visitors who usually come to see these flamingo birds. It's the only lake in Uganda where you can see flamingo birds. If you don't see them from here, you just have to travel to Tanzania on Lake Natron or to Lake Nakuru in Kenya to see these flamingos. And we have only one species of flamingos that visit the lake. They are called lesser flamingo birds, but also usually receive other species of birds called greater flamingos, but they are not so common here. So this place, when it rains so much or so heavily, some water from the lake just floods over this part, and it's also good to flood because when it floods, this kind of grass grows up. And it's a unique grass. It's called cypress, which this kind of sage, the cows, domesticated cows within the community, feeds on this grass. And also at night, hippos from Lake Edward, they just come at night, graze on this grass that grows on the shores of Lake Mnyanyange. Instead of these cows feeding on salt, licking on salt, instead they eat the grass, which tastes salty. So we are on the shoreline of the lake. This water is salty. So this salt water, but not all that concentrated like water on Lake Katwe, but this one is less concentrated, but it usually attracts birds because you can see the water is green. So there is a green plant that grows within the water that the flamingos feed on, and that's why the flamingos are here. And this kind of food that the flamingos eat, when they eat this food, the color of their feathers turn to pink, depending on the food they are feeding on. So in other words, flamingo birds change the color of their feathers depending on the food they are feeding on. So we are here to see the food they are feeding on. That's green algae, which grows within the salt water. So if you quite observant, you see that on the banks of the water, on the shoreline, there are some feathers of flamingos. So when they are cleaning up their feathers, these feathers drop on the shores, and those tourists who usually come with children, the children they usually like to go back with a souvenir of feathers of these flamingos. They take them back as to decorate their houses back at home, and that's why they come and pick these feathers from the shoreline of the lake. And those are quite unique birds. They are called pied avocet, and those pied avocets, they are European migrants. They come from Denmark, from Norway, Sweden, and they come here in search of food, but they don't breed from here. They breed in Europe. So when it's time for breeding, these pied avocets, they have to return back, and they are quite unique. Why are they unique? They have a curved bill. Their bill is curved. Their beak is curved. So when they are feeding on some insects within the salt water, they keep on slashing their bill on the water. You can see the way how it is feeding. It keeps on slashing it on the. Their feeding is quite unique. It slashes. while picking the dudu, the insects within the salt water. So if you're quite near the lake, you hear some sounds of the flamingos making some conversation between each other. So sometimes when these flamingos, after eating, they make a conference. They exchange views. Before these flamingos fly off from here, Lake Munyanyange, to Lake Nakuru in Kenya, they have to send some flamingos to wreck whether food is available on Lake Natron or Lake Nakuru. So they don't go at one time. They first send some wreckers to go and check whether food is available on the other lake where they're just going. So before they go, they first make a conference. And when they are conferencing here, they have to keep on making that kind of voice, that kind of call. Yeah, you can hear that call of the flamingos. So they are in conferencing. They are in a conversation. Yeah, they are trying to see how and when to go to those different destinations, either Lake Nakuru or Lake Natron in Tanzania for breeding. Because already they are practicing here how to make nests, and they make nests out of mud. So after practicing how to make nests, then they go and make nests on Lake Natron, and then they start on laying the eggs. Then after hatching, after the juvenile maturing, then they have to return back here in search of food. These flamingos, they are usually scared by people when they just get close to them. They have to extend near the middle of the lake. And they have some enemies also, like when it's night. There are some, when they are on the shoreline, there are some nocturnals that feed on them. For example, we have the civet cat, we have the genet cat, even the hyenas feed on them. Even the leopards feed on them. So sometimes to make their own security, they have to go in the middle of the lake. Yeah, to provide security for them.
Gama